Greetings, family. Greetings, comrades. I'm Maurice Mitchell, National Director of the Working Families Party. It's a pleasure and it's truly humbling and an honor to address you all today. And my only regret is I'm not able to fellowship and build with you in person, but I hope to correct that as soon as possible. Now, I've been a student of history, as I suspect many of you have, and I've studied history for a while. And when I was younger, I used to read about the social movements that preceded us. I used to marvel at their bravery, their courage, while standing up to and speaking against the horrors of state violence, of slavery, of colonialism. And if you all were like me, you also wondered what you would do if your time ever came. Family, comrades, our time has certainly come. We are in a period in the history of our world where, after this chapter is written, our descendants, some of whom have not even arrived on this earth, will thumb through a history book or scroll a web page on their smartphones and they'll ask us, "What did you do?" I have a young son, and being a role model and doing things that he can be proud of and hopefully find worthy of emulation are high on my list of things to do. Also, when I consider my righteous ancestors, being in their light and making them proud is one of the reasons I wake up every day. And when I think about my community, I don't know if we will achieve victory, but I know who I want to be and struggle with. And it's my community, it's my global community. And so so grateful to be with you. Now, I want to tell you a story about why our voices are so important and why I cannot be silent in these times or any time. And we certainly are in a moment of rising global fascism, of rising global state capture and oligarchy. Back in 2016, I was organizing with the Movement for Black Lives during the presidential election, and we organized a direct action against Hillary Clinton in one of her swanky fundraisers. And we surreptitiously recruited a young Black queer organizer to infiltrate the room and force the conversation around her previous statements, marking our youth as quote unquote super predators. It was a moment, one that lingered and one that really forced the Clinton campaign to come to terms with her record and Bill Clinton, President Clinton's record, and the infamous 94 crime bill that really incarcerated and criminalized so many working people, poor people, and specifically Black people. And I won't lie to you, we were feeling ourselves because that intervention really landed. And while our tactic was very successful, I can't say the same thing about our overall strategy, and I'll explain what I mean. At that time in 2016, we tabled the electoral question. Organizers I like and respected argued that both parties, Hillary and Trump, Republican and Democrat, were just offering a different type of hell for Black people. And or some people were suggesting that it was a foregone conclusion that Hillary Clinton would win. So our job was to challenge her, beat her up. Don't worry about the electoral question. The electoral question will resolve itself. And in retrospect, I should have spoken up, but I didn't. My assessment at the time mirrored a lot of people that nobody was going to elect this failure of a businessman, a reality TV host, that at the end of the day, I counted on people clearly seeing his campaign for the con that it was and remains today. And much to my chagrin, he won. Even today, I'm still triggered by the words President Donald Trump. I feel some sense of shame, some sense of, in hindsight, embarrassment and at making that judgment. To me, it's an example of a lack of leadership, a lack of strategic clarity. I succumbed to groupthink when I knew better. I allowed the orthodoxy of a few loud, proud, and I think history has proven wrong people to quell the clarity I felt in that historic moment. I tell that story because I don't want that feeling again for myself. I don't want that feeling for anybody globally. Whatever the outcome of this chapter of our history, you will not feel the regret of not doing our level best and using all tactics and strategies in order to stand up against this rising fascism, this rising right Christian nationalism, rising colonialism, rising oligarchy. So standing up to fascism to me means more than direct actions, more than protest, although all those things are important. In fact, last week we had a huge protest out in the streets in the United States. Eventually, we have to stop fascists from seizing governing power in the first place. And if you noticed, ultra-right parties, fascist organizations, organizations that in the global north used to be in the shadows, have now come out of the shadows and they're seeking governing power. And I would argue we have to contend with the electoral question and seek governing power too. Not as the totality of everything we do, but certainly as a piece of the puzzle, which means coalition building, party building, and having a governing theory. Right-wing authoritarians have told a compelling story that's taking root in our communities, particularly with our young boys and men. They are not simply saying that moneyed elites are robbing us. They are giving our folks an other to make an enemy of. That other might take the form of women, LGBTQ folks, immigrants, migrants. The list goes on and on and on. They say those people over there are the reasons your wages are down and why you can't get ahead in life. They say, give us power and we will crush those people and restore your dignity. They are connecting with a generation of people who feel disconnected, isolated, alienated by society, by our economy, by the global capitalist system. And we can't win unless we give them cultural and electoral and psychological alternatives. Family, comrades, we can no longer afford to be on the sidelines of the electoral question and of the party question. We must build political parties that could challenge neoliberalism, challenge colonialism, and not simply offer a challenge, but offer a proposition to the masses of our people. We cannot be content fighting the power. We must aspire to become it, to be the power, to govern ourselves. From the Americas to Africa to everywhere in between, abstaining from politics, from the electoral question, from the serious work of party building, while right-wing authoritarians will win election after election in service of doling out cruelty and oppression, it's no longer acceptable. It is a disservice to our ancestors. It is a disservice to our descendants who will inherit this world. And family, it is an abdication of our duty as organizers and a disservice to ourselves. We cannot continue to appeal to decision makers who refuse to see our humanity. We must become those very decision makers. From the bottom up, build a bottom-up movement, a solidarity movement that is global and that contends with governing power as well as protest power. We start by setting a strategy, a North Star, gaining governing power for working people. Then we do the boring and serious work of building the enabling institutions that will secure it. Locality by locality, town by town, hamlet by hamlet, village by village, country by country. Let us come together to build beachheads where we can reflect soberly on the wins and losses, all while building a political project. Let our strategy do the work we placed our faith in tactics to accomplish. We need a strategy. We need a plan. And we need one that is broad and deep and rigorous as deserved our people. It is time for us to release a commitment to perennial protest and embrace a laser-like focus on governing, where we set agendas, where our ideas become the new common sense. And that means being secure in our pursuit of power and demonstrating the cool, almost ruthless confidence of someone with a plan. But we also need institutions that people want to belong to, where their entire person is met and embraced. Places where we can laugh and organize and dance and do direct actions and play and eat and do politics in a deeply connected, heart-based way. The thin, vapid politics that have led us here will now free us. We need a new type of politics, a new type of party politics that gets to the heart of our people because our hearts are hungry for connection, for meaning, for belonging, as well as our mouths are hungry for food. And we need to seek to solve both of those needs. And in building these institutions and coalitions, we can neither be overly excitable in victory nor crushed by defeat. We'll win some and lose some, but the grand vision is bigger than any one election at any one point. It's a long arc plan towards sustainable governing power. This is our mandate. This is what we are building at the Working Families Party in the United States. And that is what I challenge you all to build wherever you are. And you have a comrade and a soldier and a friend in me and the Working Families Party every step of the way. Because when we fight, when we organize, and when we build institutions that people see themselves in and want to be a part of, we win. And that is how, from America to Africa to around the world, we all can get free. Onwards.